Hello and welcome to my podcast called Innervation. Innervation was inspired by my previous podcast, Silence, where over the course of 2 years, I spoke every week with a total of 100 women from science, technology, engineering and mathematics or STEM. I kept all of those guests anonymous so that they could talk openly and honestly about their lives, and we discussed all of their experiences, what they've learned along their life journeys and their hopes and ideas for living fulfilling and contented lives. Because I always kept their identities safe, the conversations on Silence were always so raw and transparent, and we didn't just talk about being women in STEM, but about everything. The topics that tended to come up are the same topics that I discuss with my mentees, or I'm asked about in private after I've given a talk in schools and colleges, and they're actually topics I also talk about with my friends and family. So I thought, rather than keeping these topics behind closed doors, how about opening them up to everybody? What I've done is I've sifted through all the episodes of Silence to bring you my favourite sound bites about these certain topics. Each week on Innervation, I'll be reflecting on the perspectives that came up on Silence that I actually feel are pearls of wisdom. And I've selected quotes that I found particularly provoking, inspiring and empowering in the hope that they resonate with you too. This week is all about purpose. So I was watching that Disney movie the other night called Soul, and it got me really thinking because, spoiler alert, the real sort of message for me of that movie was about the difference between purpose and meaning. And I'll definitely do an episode on meaning at some point as well. But I wanted to talk about purpose today because I think we often get purpose and meaning mixed up, and that's certainly the message of the movie. And, you know, a lot of the women in STEM that I've talked to for Silence have often ended up sort of getting to the point in the conversation where they're talking about their purpose and what they find fulfilling. And purpose is such an interesting concept because I think particularly very capable women or capable people really sort of have a goal, they have ambitions, they have purpose. And it can often be the driving forces of our lives, which is great. It's great to have a goal, it's great to have something to work towards. But I think sometimes that can really keep us very sort of one-track minded and can almost distract us from actually appreciating our lives because we're so concentrated on fulfilling our purpose that we forget to stop and sort of really, notice the small but massive things in life that really make our lives meaningful. And I was curious to see what women from Innervation had talked about on the subject of purpose. So I've selected a few sound bites that really struck a chord with me. And yeah, let's explore them. So I think to begin with, often people start to think about their purpose when they're making big life decisions and things. But for me, what I've noticed about people is that they've really taken a look at their purpose when they are experiencing loss. If they've lost a loved one, or, they've lost a really amazing job, or just something massive happens that involves loss, it can really encourage people to start thinking about their purpose. And that was certainly the case with my guest from episode 24 of Silence, where she lost her husband, and part of her grieving process was to look at her own life and make sure that she was also living with purpose the way her husband did.
I'm the best person I can be, which means I'm kind and considerate and trying to find meaning and purpose in my life, so that when I leave here, like my husband did, he was a remarkable person and did a lot of good in the world. He felt very good about what he had done here. And, I want that same feeling.
It is so important to have purpose in life. I think, you know, it gives us a reason to get up in the morning. It gives us focus and forces us to concentrate on the point of our lives. So it gives us goals, it gives us a reason to do things and to contribute to this world. And I think that's really important. I think, if you don't have hope, what would be the point, kind of thing. But, as I've said, and I think it's also been my experience, I've often had a real goal in mind. I've often had a real purpose in mind, and I can get quite obsessive about that and sort of, forget to appreciate the smaller things in life that are actually really big things, like forgetting to appreciate a sunny day, or forgetting to appreciate the taste of a really good meal, or forgetting to appreciate how much my heart fills with joy when I see someone that I love who's smiling and happy. Because sometimes our purpose can really sort of like distract us from what's actually important, because we're so obsessed about fulfilling our purpose. And my guest from episode 22 talks about always sort of reviewing her work-life balance to make sure that she is always living with purpose, but not getting too obsessed by that. This from episode 22.
I think one of my biggest priorities is actually not to let myself slip into such a terrible work-life balance as I had within my PhD. So actually appreciating staying in contact with people I care about, doing things that make me feel happy, and ensuring that the work I do feels meaningful or that fills me with purpose. Preferably work I enjoy, but sometimes you have to do things that you don't enjoy, but that are important.
I think, when you are trying to fulfill your purpose, every single minute counts, and you know exactly what it is that you need to do in order to achieve your goal. And so we start to sort of shave off the more wishy-washy things, the things that are just pleasurable and just nice, in favour of trying to fulfill our purpose. And I definitely, especially when I was studying, really was very guilty of that, where I started to not do the things that I enjoyed and that were really lovely and just made me happy, because I felt like they were time wasting. So, I love to sketch. I love to take photographs. I don't know, just like silly things. Like I used to love making bracelets and things like that. And I used to love creating things. And I stopped doing all of that, especially when I was doing my doctorate, because I didn't want to take any time away from my research for the doctorate. And so I became so tunnel visioned that life just became a real uphill struggle, a real chore, because I just wasn't doing anything that I really enjoyed. And I mean, I did enjoy the doctorate, but obviously it was really hard work and it was just a really tough thing to do. And so it just became a struggle all the time, because I wasn't balancing that with things that I found easy and enjoyable and light, if you know what I mean. So think it is really important to have balance. And I think we shouldn't feel guilty for doing things that we enjoy, because I think when we are doing things that are easy and light and fun, it can really unleash our creativity, and it can make our ability to fulfill our purpose so much more wholesome. I think if you're struggling to fulfill your purpose, it's not a great way to operate. I think it's really important to enjoy every day of your life as though it's your last, rather than feeling like your life will begin once you've fulfilled your purpose. I think fulfilling one's purpose should be a really enriching experience, a really balanced, enriching, joyous experience. And I know people who are always waiting for something to happen before their life can begin. When I'm thin enough, when I'm rich enough, when I'm successful enough, when I've done this, then that can start happening. And I don't think that's a great way to fulfill one's purpose. I think the purpose should be the end goal, but I think we should be trying to make sure that every single minute of our lives is treated as though it's precious and as though it's our last moment in life, which is kind of a bit morbid, but honestly, only when we're faced with the threat of our lives do we actually start to realise that life is really short. And I think, for me anyway, I definitely want to adopt an attitude of life is precious and every single minute counts. And my guest from episode 45 talks about this.
I always come back home, and I always think, okay, but what's my purpose in life? How am I making use of myself? How am I making use of my skills, making use of my knowledge to make an impact on many more people? And it's so the other stuff I've tried, I've had a lot of fun doing them. I found them fulfilling in the sense that I enjoyed it, but I wasn't satisfied with how it fitted in with my overall purpose.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to sort of make sure that we are always staying balanced when it comes to purpose, because I think, even the most successful of us can be quite tough on ourselves to be able to fulfill our purpose. And I think we always have to keep reviewing it. I think we always have to keep, self-introspecting, which is why a topic like this is on innovation, because innovation is so much about self-awareness, self-introspection, emotional intelligence, and all that good stuff. And I think it's important to keep reviewing it. I'm a big believer in meditation, and so the idea of sitting with yourself and reviewing how balanced you are in terms of fulfilling your purpose and having joy in your life, as well as meaning and all of that, I think it's a constant reviewing process. And my guest from episode 56 talks about this.
Even though women are really qualified, they're looking for, okay, well, but I need the next qualification and the next one. And Sheryl Sandberg talks about it in Lean In. Even she has imposter syndrome. We have these thoughts in our mind that tell us, oh, you're not smart enough, you're not qualified enough, you're not pretty enough. And it's not the truth. That's just this voice in your head trying to keep you small and trying to keep you safe by limiting you and keeping you in this safe and small space. But you actually have to step out of that small space if you want to do big work in the world, if you want to follow your purpose and follow your calling. And that personal development stuff is essential to finding success.
It's so important how we talk to ourselves. It's so important how much of a break we give ourselves. And, how self-loving we are and self-compassionate we are about trying to fulfill our purpose and trying to have a wholesome, meaningful life. And it's really up to us to be responsible for doing those things. I don't think anybody can love us for us or be compassionate for us. We have to be able to do that for ourselves first. And it always has a knock-on effect, because I read a quote once where it said, the way you love others is a direct reflection of how you love yourself. And so when we're kind to ourselves and when we want to try and lead a really sort of like balanced, self-aware, a balanced life that's full of integrity, that's really down to the amount of effort we put into achieving that. And, times will be tough. It won't always be easy. We won't always get it right. But I think if we have an awareness of wanting to get the balance of life right, I think we're almost there. So I'm going to leave you with a last quote again from episode 56, where she talks about the purpose she's found in her life and how having that purpose has really pulled her through.
It's been hard, but it's also been rewarding. And I just love working with women. I think that's been the most important thing. I've identified that, my purpose and my why is in supporting women and being part of their journey to grow their businesses. And I think if I hadn't had such a strong purpose, I wouldn't have continued through those challenging times.
If you're anything like me, then having a purpose in life has really pushed me along. It's given me drive, it's given me determination, and having purpose is important. But I think it's also really important to make sure that your purpose doesn't push you too far, and striving to always have the intention to enjoy life and make the most of every minute is also really important too. And it's up to us. It's up to us to put that consciousness and awareness into living a life of purpose as well as a life of fulfillment. And that comes with self-introspection and self-awareness. So I wish you all the best with that. Thank you so much for listening this week. Please do subscribe to this podcast and maybe even rate and review it if you can. I'd love to have your feedback about this episode or any others that you've listened to, and any suggestions for future topics on this show. It's all about self-discovery and self-evolution on Innervation. So be kind and loving to yourselves, and I wish you all a great week.